Okay, so thank you, Reddit user MercyButtercups. I like that name. This question is great. It makes me feel a lot better compared to the last question, in which the user said they hated math, and that made me sad. So this question makes me feel great. And so basically, what they're, I'm not going to answer everything in here, I think, but what they're getting down to is how should they learn math? They're preparing to go into a math program in their undergraduate degree, and they want to know, should they memorize things or should they memorize proofs, and like to what level should they prepare for everything. And this is something that I experienced when I did my undergrad. I did it very quickly. I had done an associate's degree in a different field, and so I had all my gen ed stuff, and basically I took 2 years, however many credits that is, 60 credits or less really, of upper level courses. I took all of my 2,000 level math stuff in one semester, and then took 3,000, 4,000 level math and physics courses basically for the rest of the time. It was terrible. I was going more than full time and working, and I felt very underprepared, and I felt like I didn't learn anything. And a lot of what this user's worries are actually experienced. So there was a moment in a differential equations class where a professor was showing something on the board, going through an example, and he goes, okay, and then you just complete the square. And I did not know what that meant. And so I stopped, and I raised my hand, and I asked, what is completing the square? And, I couldn't get a good sense whether or not the other students in there knew what that was, because they are silent. I feel like I was the only one that ever spoke. But the professor all but laughed at me. And so that one stuck with me for a while, and I couldn't follow what he had done. But I went and I looked it up on YouTube, and the best videos I could find on completing the square were from Nancy Pie, who's great. She's got a good format. I like her channel a lot. And she was basically doing like examples of the technique to teach it to you. But I didn't felt like that. It was like an algorithm. And so I wanted to learn it with the general form of a quadratic. So I should back up. Completing the square is a technique for solving quadratics. Okay. So I knew that a quadratic was ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. This is a quadratic. And the technique goes something like this. I haven't done this in a while, but this is essentially what happened when I went through it the first time. And it was an aha moment for me. So the technique is you divide everything through by a. Okay? And you get x squared plus b over a x plus c over a equal to 0. And then you subtract off the constant term. Okay. And then the idea is whatever the coefficient of the x term is, you add 1/2 of that squared. So we're going to add 1/2 of b over a. Actually, let's just make it b over 2a squared. Okay. To both sides. You got to add it to both sides. So this is b squared over 4a squared. Okay. Minus c over a. And I just switched the order of that. And then the reason why you do this, and check my math on this, but it's true, convince yourself that you turn this into a perfect square. And if it's a perfect square, it can be solved. You can just take the square root of it. So I'm going to make these guys have common denominators. So I'm going to multiply it by a factor of 4a over 4a. And if you start to see where this is going, it's pretty cool. So then you take the square root of both sides, and you get x plus b over 2a is equal to plus or minus, right, for the square root. Oh, this is plus here. B squared minus 4ac. That's perfect squares in the denominator there. And you subtract over the negative b over 2a. I'll bring it up top. And you get x equals negative b plus or minus radical b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you guys probably realized it a lot faster than I did. But when I was doing this, I got like all the way to this end and I subtracted it over and was like, this looks really familiar, you know? And then once I saw it, I just felt so good. I felt like I discovered it for the first time. Like I had never, I had never known it before. And so that's a really long-winded answer, but I think if you have the time, prove everything to yourself. Prove everything. Read proofs. Trace them line by line. And they skip algebra because they expect a certain competency that you can't have when you go into this program. You won't have it. But you'll develop it for sure if you do enough work. And complete those steps in between. Make yourself believe it. And in that process, you will just internalize things in a way that they memorize themselves. It's not going to be the same if you have note cards and you're trying to memorize things. I can give more examples of hard things to memorize. But you will be able to derive formulae after you do this, and you will be able to memorize them a lot easier. And doing that, proving things to yourself, will make you have these sparse connections between ideas that suddenly that'll blossom into new math. You'll be discovering things for yourself at some point, which is really cool. So don't memorize things if you can help it. Learn them, understand them. Semantically, that's how they'll memorize themselves. Hopefully that answers your question. And just keep in mind that your life is long, and that you don't have to do this all in one shot. Get your A's, get through this program, and keep studying.